What up, YouTube? Here with a prediction video for tomorrow night's WWE Summerslam at the Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee. Now I'm gonna go through every matchup that is listed on the card. First match I'm gonna give my prediction towards is the Raw Women's Title match between Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch. It's the rematch from WrestleMania 38. And a rematch from last year's SummerSlam. Y'all remember Becky Lynch made her in-ring return at SummerSlam last year by defeating Bianca Belair in, less than a minute. And she won the SmackDown Women's title last year by defeating Belair in that fashion. And then Bianca Belair defeated Becky Lynch at this year's WrestleMania and became the new Raw Women's champion, and she's been reigning as the Raw Women's champion ever since WrestleMania, and she's been doing her thing. And I'm picking Becky Lynch to go over in this match. Becky Lynch did not have her one-on-one rematch after suffering that defeat versus Belair. At Backlash, the Raw Women's title wasn't on the line. Then at Hell in a Cell, Becky Lynch got to get another shot at her Raw Women's title in a triple threat versus Belair and Asuka. She was also involved in that match as well. So she's getting her rematch at tomorrow's SummerSlam for the title that she lost at WrestleMania. And like I said, from WrestleMania to SummerSlam, that's a pretty lengthy run that Bianca Belair had, right? I mean, she's defended it on, what other pay-per-views? She defended it at Money in the Bank as well. So, and she's made some defenses on Raw, and yeah. And now Becky Lynch, I think, she's had this new character development. She's not the Irish lash kicker. She's not, I don't even know if she goes by the man anymore. She's on some like I don't want to compare her to her husband, Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins got that whole Joker, crazy guy, visionary character gimmick that he playing. And Becky Lynch is like on the same type of timing as far as like her becoming kind of like a lunatic over the Raw Women's title, which she lost at WrestleMania. And I think, it suits her well. She's an incredible worker. She can compete and work in the ring, and she could also talk on the mic as well. So she's really a complete package. And Bianca Belair, she's up there as well. Her mic skills, her mic work, could use a little more improvement. But as far as her in-ring abilities, she could compete with anyone. But I think Becky Lynch, to have her momentum back, I think she's going to gain that Raw Women's title once again at SummerSlam. I think she's going to win in a cliche heel fashion. That's what I'm predicting. And then the second matchup I'm going to predict is for the SmackDown Women's title. The newly crowned SmackDown Women's Champion, Miss Money in the Bank, Liv Morgan. She cashed in her Money in the Bank on the same night that she won the Money in the Bank, and she successfully cashed it in and became this new SmackDown Women's Champion after Ronda Rousey had defeated Natalya. Now Ronda Rousey will get her rematch to try and avenge that loss at Money in the Bank versus Liv Morgan at SummerSlam tomorrow. And I think Liv Morgan is most likely going to go over because she had won the SmackDown Women's title at WWE's last pay-per-view, the Money in the Bank. And I don't think they're going to take the title off her that quickly. And Ronda Rousey, she's a part-timer. She comes around for big WWE pay-per-view events, and I think after SummerSlam, after she pushes Liv Morgan over her, she's gonna be off TV for a while. Probably won't return to like Survivor Series or Royal Rumble. That's what I'm predicting. I think Liv Morgan is gonna win and retain her SmackDown Women's title. Then the third matchup I'm going to get my prediction for is for the United States Championship. Bobby Lashley is going to be defending it versus the current Mr. Money in the Bank, who's been beefing with everybody right now, Theory. And they're really pushing this guy. I really like the angle that the WWE is pushing with Theory right now. He's getting a lot of airtime on their programming right now. And Bobby Lashley, WWE seems to have amnesia as far as, guys who's never, had a rematch for their world title. Bobby Lashley never actually lost the WWE title. He had to drop it due to injuries, and he came back at WrestleMania as babyface to defeat Omos, and then he forgot about the title he never lost. And that's like, I could go on with other former WWE champions who also never got their rematch, but Bobby Lashley is one of the main faces currently active for WWE right now, and he brought, Theory winning the U.S. title brought relevancy back to the U.S. title scene, and now with Bobby Lashley defeating Theory in the last pay-per-view event at Money in the Bank, and becoming the new U.S. champion, that adds more prestige as well. Bobby Lashley is one of the strongest talents in WWE, and he's one of the, like I said, the more popular wrestlers currently right now in WWE, and he makes the title look good. And and him and Theory's been having a good feud as well. They're one of the top superstars currently active on the roster, and their match at Money in the Bank, was nothing out the ordinary. It was a regular match, like I said, with Bobby Lashley going over. Expect nothing different from the rematch at SummerSlam. Bobby Lashley is gonna go over and retain the U.S. title. I don't think they're going to take the title off him this quickly when he had won it at Money in the Bank. And I don't think they're going to take the title off of him in his first pay-per-view title defense. I don't see that happening. And then the fourth matchup on the card, I'm going to be talking about the Undisputed Tag Team title match featuring the special guest referee Double J Jeff Jarrett, Tennessee legend, wrestling legend period, WWE Hall of Famer, former NWA World Champion, former Impact World Champion, WCW Champion, Intercontinental Champion, US Champion. He's got a Hall of Fame worthy resume, hence why he's in the Hall of Fame, and he's a wrestling legend. If you're tapped in with wrestling, you know that already. And now we got him guest refereeing the rematch from Money in the Bank between the Usos and the Street Profits. Now, the Usos been tag team champions for over a year now. They've feuded with Street Profits before, defeated them, and then at Money in the Bank won in a controversial fashion as well. They had a match, a feud for the SmackDown tag team titles like last year. The Usos went over, it wasn't really much, and then at Money in the Bank, that's when the pot stirred a little bit with the Usos getting a controversial win over the Street Profits, where the Usos got the pin when Montez Ford had his shoulder up off of the mat. And with that being said, with that referee error being made in that match for Money in the Bank, now you have Jeff Jarrett being the special guest referee, so there won't be any mistakes like that. And also, it's in Tennessee, it's in Nashville. Jeff Jarrett's a local guy over there, and it makes a lot of sense. And these two teams, the Street Profits and the Usos, anytime they get in the ring, they put on a spectacular performance. Their match at Money in the Bank was spectacular, and it was a very, very good match that they put on at Money in the Bank. And at SummerSlam, expect nothing less, but I'm expecting different results this time. I think the Usos are not going to retain their tag team titles. I think the Street Profits will go over at SummerSlam and winning the undisputed WWE Tag Team titles. I think it's time to, I would say, shake things up at the WWE right now with the office changes happening with the WWE, with Vince McMahon recently announcing his retirement from being CEO of the WWE. And I think no other bigger creative shakeup can happen other than the Usos and Roman Reigns, the bloodline, with either one of those guys losing their belts. And I think that would be a huge sign in a change being implemented with their product if the Usos were to drop the tag team titles. And I'm going to make that bold prediction that the Street Profits will walk out of SummerSlam as the new WWE Undisputed Tag Team Champions. And then the fifth matchup on the card, we have The Miz versus Logan Paul. This is the celebrity guest wing match. Logan Paul, he don't wrestle like a regular celebrity. He's a real live athlete. He's got a legit amateur wrestling background, and he's an athletically built dude. And he showcased his athleticism at WrestleMania when he teamed up with The Miz to take on the Mysterios. And then Miz had hit the skull crushing finale on Logan Paul following the match, and Logan Paul wants some get back from WrestleMania, and he's going to get a chance at SummerSlam. And I think it's going to be one of those, entertainment-based matches. And I think Logan Paul, he's obviously going to show off his athleticism and what he can do in the ring. And I think Logan Paul is going to go over, and it should be a surprisingly good match that Logan Paul and The Miz will put on at SummerSlam. And then the next matchup I'm going to give my prediction towards is the matchup between two former teammates. They were both playing for the Indianapolis Colts at once upon a time. I'm talking about Pat McAfee and Happy Corbin. Pat McAfee is another one of those guys. I wouldn't put him on the same level as a Logan Paul. He's not a celebrity guest. He's actually a full-time commentator. He does the color commentating on Friday Night SmackDown. And he's a lifelong, avid, dedicated pro wrestling, sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it, fan. And he's got an athletic background. He was known for his athleticism during his career in the NFL, and he displayed his athleticism and his in-ring ability when he made his debut in 2020 on NXT. And I mean, this guy obviously loves wrestling. He's got like a wrestling dojo in his garage. That's how much of a wrestling fan he is. So he did his own home personal training, and with the athleticism that he has, he could really perform in the ring. And I think with him and Happy Corbin being former roommates, former teammates, they are going to have a good chemistry, and they're going to put on an awesome match, I think, for tomorrow's SummerSlam. Happy Corbin, he had just put Madcap Moss over, and he's one of those up-and-coming younger talents that the WWE is behind and is pushing. So I think Happy Corbin needs to win more than Pat McAfee. I think Pat McAfee, he's a commentator, and I think anytime he has matches for pay-per-view events, it's really for a show, like, to show it's like when Jerry Lawler, when he was a commentator for Monday Night Raw, he would compete in matches here and there, and it's like the same thing for Pat McAfee. And he, like I said, he's a full-time color commentator on SmackDown. Happy Corbin is a full-time superstar wrestler, whatever you want to call it, on SmackDown. So I think Happy Corbin needs the W in this match versus Pat McAfee. Like I said, I'm expecting a good match out of these two, and I'm predicting that Happy Corbin is going to go over Pat McAfee tomorrow at SummerSlam. And then the next matchup on the card is I was going to say Seth Rollins versus Riddle, but if y'all go tap into my latest episode of Talk Wrestling, it was announced that that match is canceled. Oh, now I remember. It's a no disqualification tag team match between the Mysterios and Judgment Day. That feud's been building over there on Monday Night Raw for some time now. Pretty cool angle. Finn Balor, I think, ever since he joined the Judgment Day, I think, Edge is one of the biggest names. He's a part-timer, but anytime he's on WWE programming, he's one of the main guys that would be seen on WWE programming. And with Finn Balor and Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley turning on Edge, I thought Judgment Day was going to get a lot more of a spotlight shined on them, but not really. That hasn't been the case for Judgment Day. They've been featured more recently on Raw as of late, by getting into a feud with the Mysterios, and I'm expecting a good match between the Mysterios and Judgment Day. They had a regular tag team match on the last episode of Monday Night Raw while Rey Mysterio was celebrating his 20th year anniversary, and the Mysterios picked up the win. They've been doing a lot of back and forth, and the Mysterios been picking up the W by pulling off the Eddie Guerrero moves, cheating to pick up the win, outsmarting the Judgment Day. Hence why this match is SummerSlam between the two teams is going to be competed in a no disqualification match. The Judgment Day is a new group, I would say a relatively new group. They've been around ever since WrestleMania, but without having Edge as their mentor, they're really a new group, and I think they need the momentum on their side to push them and get some heat going on them. And it's been talked about that Edge is going to make his return soon to the WWE, and if they want to put Judgment Day in a worthwhile feud with Edge, I think Judgment Day needs to go over the Mysterios and pick up that win for that match at SummerSlam. So I'm going to predict that the Judgment Day will defeat the Mysterios at SummerSlam. And yeah, and as far as the main event goes, the last man standing match between the current undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. Now this is like the Rock and Austin of their era. Not comparing the two rivalries, no, because they're a rivalry of their own. But they're the only other feud that's had a trilogy at WrestleMania. Now Roman Reigns, the last time he was on pay-per-view was for WrestleMania Backlash, and he didn't put his undisputed WWE Universal title on the line. He competed in a 6-man tag match where him and the Usos, the Bloodline, defeated Drew McIntyre and RK Bro, and that was a entertaining matchup that they put on at Backlash. And Roman Reigns hasn't been on pay-per-view ever since, so he's a part-timer as of now. I guess this kind of, adds prestige to the WWE Universal title if you think about it for a sec, like from a different perspective, like with now the WWE and the Universal title being combined as the undisputed title, and with that title not being on the line on every pay-per-view, it gets the rest of the roster more hungry and gets them to fight harder to potentially get a shot at the undisputed Universal title. And the last time he put the title on the line was actually against Riddle, but it was on SmackDown. And last time he defended that title on pay-per-view was when he won it at WrestleMania, when he defeated Brock Lesnar to become the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. And then he's almost at 700 days now. Like I said, with my prediction for the undisputed WWE Tag Team title match between the Usos and the Street Profits. The new direction that the WWE will creatively go towards to, implement change in their programming and in their product moving forward, I would say, is to have Roman Reigns drop the title. I mean, he's had an incredible title reign. You can't think of any other champion in the last, I would say, few decades even that's had a reign like Roman Reigns had ever since he made his return at SummerSlam 2 years ago. With that being said, I'm expecting Roman Reigns to go over cleanly versus Brock Lesnar. Here's why. I don't want to get too much into the politics, but it was discussed that Brock Lesnar might be leaving the WWE. I mean, this is the talks that I'm hearing on the internet, and it was rumored that Brock Lesnar had walked out when he had heard that Vince McMahon officially announced his retirement, and a lot of the sources have told the fans and people tapped into pro wrestling that Brock Lesnar said, quote, if Vince is leaving, then he's leaving. He doesn't see no reason to be with the WWE anymore if he's not going to be working with Vince. Brock Lesnar truly doesn't need the WWE, not for no clout, not for no money. Brock Lesnar could go, do his farm thing and, been doing what he was doing before he re-signed with the WWE. And I think he's been, doing his best work as of late, ever since he came back at last year's SummerSlam. He's actually looking like he's enjoying what he's doing with the WWE, but with Vince being out the picture, does he want to stay? Is he going to be as enthusiastic about his work without Vince being there? And like I said, here's why I say Roman Reigns, I think, should drop the title at SummerSlam. Like I said, I'm predicting the Street Profits to go over the Usos. That's going to be like a sign that, things are changing in the WWE. Like, the Usos lost the Undisputed Tag Team titles now. That means the Bloodline doesn't have all the titles anymore. Now it's up to Roman Reigns to hold down the fort and to, retain that undisputed WWE Universal title. I think this was gonna happen at SummerSlam. This is gonna be like the shock factor to SummerSlam tomorrow. I think this is a bold prediction, but not really, because a lot of other wrestling fans are, expecting this. As far as, quote unquote, I gotta put the little quotation mark there, educated wrestling fans like to, do their own bookings and whatnot. And a lot of people are saying, Theory is going to be cashing in the Money in the Bank and going to walk out as the new undisputed WWE champion. And I think that's going to happen at SummerSlam. I think you have a brutal gimmick match like the Last Man Standings match for the main event at SummerSlam. And they're going to put on a hell of a match, Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. Like I said, it's not like a Austin and Rock. You could compare it to like a Cena Orton of this generation. They've had 3 WrestleMania matches. I mean, at Crown Jewel, it was Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. And then at WrestleMania, it was Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. They have had countless matches, and I think this is the best way to close the book on Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. And I think Roman Reigns is going to go out on top, clean and fair. And then after going through a hellacious match like a Last Man Standings match versus a beast incarnate like Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns is going to be beat on his feet. And then that calls for a perfect opportunity for Theory to cash in the Money in the Bank. And I think he's going to successfully cash it in, with Roman Reigns now also being a part-timer. And I've heard that he's going to be shooting a movie somewhere, following The Rock's footsteps, his cousin The Rock's footsteps, and doing movies and shows or whatever. Like, I don't know what he got going on as far as outside of his wrestling career. But we all know now that ever since WrestleMania, Roman Reigns has been a part-time wrestler for the WWE. And I think, no bigger implication of change can be done in the WWE currently than to have Roman Reigns, who's been champion for over 600 days, drop the title at SummerSlam, with Vince recently announcing his retirement and putting the belt on a full-timer like Theory. It looks like they're really behind this guy. And if y'all watched SmackDown tonight, y'all saw that Drew McIntyre defeated Sheamus to become the number one contender for the WWE Undisputed Universal title at Clash at the Castle. And if y'all saw, following that match, Drew McIntyre was attacked by Theory. Well, Theory is beefing with everybody now. He's been beefing with Dolph Ziggler on Raw, who's been interrupting his matches. He's trying to get his United States title back versus Bobby Lashley. And he went through it with Madcap Moss. And then the Usos ain't like him. And then Roman Reigns checked him on Raw. Brock Lesnar put a whooping on him last week on SmackDown and tonight on SmackDown. And then Drew McIntyre and him got involved in a 6-man tag match on the last episode of Raw. And then after Drew McIntyre became the number one contender by defeating Sheamus, Theory would go on and attack him and lay him out. And I think that kind of lines for a feud between Theory and Drew McIntyre. Two full-time guys, two credible guys, and two guys that the WWE has been behind. Of course, Drew McIntyre, he main evented WrestleMania, defeated Goldberg, became the WWE champion at WrestleMania 36. And Theory, he's the youngest United States champion in WWE history, youngest missing Money in the Bank. Now, they got to really put a effort into that feud to make it something, and it could be something. But like I said, that WWE title, the undisputed WWE Universal title picture, that scene right there for the main title, and with Roman Reigns no longer being the world champion and having two full-time guys go at it for the world title is going to be a rejuvenating, refreshing feeling for a lot of the fans, because ever since the two titles got combined, we haven't seen that title as much on WWE programming as of late. So as fans, all we got to do is wait and see what happens at SummerSlam. But these are my predictions. Y'all let me know what y'all thoughts are, what y'all expecting from SummerSlam. What is y'all predictions for SummerSlam 2022? If y'all got a prediction video previewing SummerSlam 2022, I'll be more than glad to check it out. Other than that, I say comment, subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. Be safe, be healthy, and I'm out of here, y'all. Peace.